All right, grave impacts of all of this. The Saudi Arabian oil output now slashed by 5.7 million barrels a day after that coordinated attack on its facilities. Now, that's the largest supply disruption in history. Analysts are warning that it won't be easy to make up for that gap. Now, sanctions in Iran and Venezuela will prevent those countries from increasing supply. Shale producers, in the meantime, in the U.S. won't be able to ramp up fast enough to make a difference. Left among the big producers is OPEC, and most of the group's excess capacity comes, of course, from Saudi Arabia. Our John Defterios is in Abu Dhabi for us now. I mean, can we overstate, really, John, how much of a game changer this attack has been when it comes to the energy market?
Well, when speaking about the global energy market, I would describe it as an earthquake, Paula, because the epicenter is Saudi Arabia, and it is the #1 exporter. And I would go on to say that there's probably going to be tremors for at least 4 weeks going forward. I mean, the narrative has changed dramatically in the last week, upside down. In fact, I met the Minister of Energy here in Abu Dhabi, the new one, and we were talking about an oversupplied market and why they had to continue with the OPEC Plus agreement. Now we're looking at a shortage. As you suggested, 5.7 million barrels a day is a record knocked out over a weekend by any stretch of the imagination. Go back to the 1990s and the invasion of Kuwait, the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi. It is unprecedented, and that's the description I got from Saudi Arabia today. They're suggesting they have about 200 million barrels of spare capacity. It sounds like a lot, Paula, and that storage is in Asia and in Europe and in Saudi Arabia, I'm told now, but that only covers them for 35 or 40 days. And the sources I'm speaking to are suggesting they have to manage expectations because they've never seen anything like it before. So it's a tough road ahead. We're not at the levels that we were even in October of 2018 when we peaked at $86 a barrel from the pressure from Donald Trump onto Iran. But something like this and having a removal of so much oil, and as you suggested, Paula, there is no magic spigot in the United States. The shale producers cannot fill that void. It took them 6 years to add 6 million barrels, and that was a record in the United States.
Yeah, and reminding that this whole equation also has to do with refining capacity and what kind of oil are you pumping, where is it being refined. John, I know that your sources have been telling you some very interesting things about how long it's going to take for these facilities to get back on stream.
Yes, they said it's not days, but actually weeks.
Weeks.
And I think that they're trying to guide the market, weeks to restore it to the levels they were before. And Paul, I've been to those Aramco facilities. They are the best at what they do. So if they say it's going to take weeks, that's a pretty good reality check. The other thing I thought was interesting in the market today, though, Paul, is that we spiked up at 20% in Asia, right? And then we came back down with like a 7-8% gain. In the last 3 hours, we're surging back up to a 14% gain because this is the real deal. I think the trading community is starting to realize that there's a problem on the horizon. We're waiting to see if Donald Trump will deliver on the promise to release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, 645 million barrels. But we have to know when, at what level, and how long will it take to get to the market here. The final thing I would add, whoever's doing this, the perpetrators have been extremely surgical. If we can bring up the graphic here. They started by hitting a pumping station for Saudi Aramco on the east-west pipeline above Riyadh, pumping station 8. They went to the Sheba field, the gas field, a month ago. Many were hitting tankers in the Gulf in July. And then, the dagger to the heart was to go to the processing station there and the second largest field in Saudi Arabia. This is no simple game. And it certainly makes it very challenging for the Crown Prince to push forward his Vision 2030 plan, I would say, Paula.
Yeah, not to mention an IPO. And we have to say, look, what does this mean in terms of vulnerabilities throughout the world on a lot of the oil facilities, which is going to be something a lot of people are going to be looking at in the coming weeks. John, thanks so much for